Good morning, brothers and sisters. Continuing in the book of Genesis, I am going to read to you guys today Dinah Defiled in Genesis 34. And I pray that as we finished up yesterday with Shechem in 33, had been identified to tell Balata, situated in the eastern end of the pass between Mount Ebi and Mount Gerizim. The town was strategically located to control all the roads through the hill country in the ancient times. The site had been excavated most extensively by E. Wright in 1956 to 1962. So these excavations revealed small permanent settlement prior to 1800 BC. So when the Hyksos built a large fortress there, this would have readily explained why Hamor, also a Simonad, was so anxious to form an alliance with Jacob. In later times, a Canaanite fortress temple of Baal, Berith, was built there in Judges chapter 9, verse 4, and was eventually destroyed by Gideon's son, Abimelech, in Judges 9, 46 to 49. So we're going to start this morning again. Once again, Genesis 34, Pastor Charlie, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, and he lay with her and defiled her. And, you know, the only thing I could say there is defiling her, and she was a daughter, possibly in the manuscripts, they quoted her age anywhere from 12 to 14 years old. And this was the beginning of a lot of problems that were going on in the Old Testament, marriages, so on and so forth. But as his soul clave unto Dinah and the daughter of Jacob, he loved the damsel and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel and lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done, because they were against intermarrying at this point. And Hamor can commune with him, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter, and I pray you give him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you, and you shall dwell with us, and the land shall be with you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as you say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And we see there was a requirement coming on here. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor and his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister, they said unto them, We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that was a reproach unto us, because they weren't of the same faith. But in this will we consent unto you, if you will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you'll not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we will be gone. And the words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to the thing because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his fathers. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came into the gate of the city and communed with the men of the city, saying, these men are peaceable with us. Therefore, let them dwell in the land and trade therein, for the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among them to be us, to be circumcised, as they are circumcised. And then he wrote here in verse 23 and 24, shall not the cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent of them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem, his son, hearken all that went to the gate of the city, and every male was circumcised, and all that went out of the gate of the city. But then the brothers came, and the brothers had something else in their hearts. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly, and they slew, in other words, killed all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword. And they took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain. They spoiled the city because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, their oxen, their axes, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And in closing, he says, and they said, the brothers, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? So they were pretty upset here, brothers and sisters, you know, and we can see that in the picture that was given to us today in the read. You know, as I was saying earlier, she only could have been, she was the sister, so she might have been perhaps 12 to 14 years of age, even after she'd been defiled. Shechem wanted to marry her. His father Hamor approached Jacob to order or to arrange a marriage. This proposal was accepted, provided that Hamor's family submit to the circumcision that we read in verse 15. But this idea was a deception on the part of the sons of Jacob, because they answered Shechem and Hamor and his father deceitfully. It was also a demeaning of the rite of circumcision. The decision was made in the gate of the city, all the way back in 19. And that every male had to be circumcised. They were circumcised, but on the third day, when the men were suffering from fever and inflammation, Dinah's brothers attacked and killed them all. They also took their wealth, their little ones, their wives, captive. Simeon and Levi were the guilty ones, killing all the males. Note the condemnation. We'll see that later on in Genesis 49, verses 5, 6, and 7. Remember, you have to read the whole book of Genesis to get the entire picture of what was going on in the beginning of the Bible. Jacob was alarmed and troubled at their action, but he did not answer their questions. And especially the last question, should we not deal with our sister as with a harlot? And that's what the brothers' revenge was all about. So I was sitting here looking into studying a little more in this chapter. And you know, the Lord's gracious all the time, because when we study, we need to study to show ourselves approved. And sometimes we don't quite understand what was going on here. And then the defilement, you know, what happened here? Well, Lot pitched his tent towards Sodom and lost his daughters. That was back in 19 of Genesis. Jacob moved too close to Shechem. And what was the result? He lost Dinah. She was the daughter of Leah in Genesis 30, verse 21, which explains why Simeon and Levi became so angry. They get really angry in 35. So there's a lot to see here. And the deception is a twofold attempt, is real deception. Simeon and Levi deceived Hamor, and Hamor thought he deceived them. Jacob's sons had learned much from watching their father. Dinah's two brothers were preparing for war, while the men of Shechem were preparing for their wealth. When the men of the city were unable to fight, Simeon and Levi killed all the men, took the spoils. It was another case of promoting a holy cause in an unholy way and being motivated by hatred of the enemy instead of love for the truth. And for Jacob, it was a disgrace. You know, Jacob was more concerned about his safety and his reputation than he was about his character and conduct of his ruthless sons. Although Jacob was not to blame for their deed, had he not settled near Shechem, this tragedy would never have occurred. On his deathbed, you're going to see Jacob brought the matter up again in Genesis 49, verses 5, 6, and 7. And that's why it's imperative to read the whole book of Genesis to get an idea of what the times were, what the people were all about, why they lived an unholy way and being motivated by hatred instead of loving the truth of the Word of God. The tragedy would not have occurred had it been a little bit different. And Jacob realized this. How gracious of God to make the tribe of Levi the priestly tribe. And, you know, and I read out of Romans the other day. I'll share that again on tomorrow's read.